Hey guys, thank you for joining us. It is Grounded HTX again. Today's episode, I'm wearing my Texans jersey because no matter what, win or lose, I'm always going to be a Texans fan. But today is a open dialogue with Vic. So Vic, our media manager and everything that he does for our media, he loves being part of our conversation. I love having him. We had an open dialogue. We were all over the place, to be honest with you. It was kind of like just a whole bunch of thoughts. We were talking about politics. We were talking about where we're at. We talked about, you know,
Banana.
a banana. We talked about a banana. Yeah, a banana, modern art, our culture, our where are we in life? Who knows, man? We just talked about a lot of stuff. Thank you for joining us. I really hope you enjoy it. We just talked today. So thank you for the comments. Thank you for the likes. Thank you for the shares. We love you guys. We'll see you on the other side. Welcome back to the Grounded HTX podcast. Today, again, one of our favorite guests is Victor. We know him as Vic, and we're just going to talk.
Yeah, this was an impromptu, last minute thing. I was literally packing up my stuff,
Right.
and you informed me that you're not leaving Wednesday or Thursday like I was told 2 weeks ago. So they're going on a beautiful vacation, right? You guys are going on a vacation and also get a chance to see where Mia's going to go for college, right?
Correct.
And so originally I was under the impression that you guys were taking off Thursday or something like that. So we had planned to do a filming. Traditionally, we do the podcast filming. For all of you that don't know, we normally film on Sundays, and then we do a quick turnaround and have it out on Monday afternoon. And so, but we were going to do a special filming and have a special guest for Wednesday, but we kind of got our dates crossed. And so Danny tells me a minute ago, he said, "Hey, by the way, dude, we're leaving Tuesday." And I was like, well, I guess I'm not going to see you on Wednesday. So what do we do to fill the space? Because they're going to be gone for how long? How long is the trip?
10 days.
Dude, are you excited? I mean,
I love it, man.
because weren't you out there? Was it 2 years ago or something like that? How long ago were you out there?
Well, if it was up to my wife, we would travel like 5-6 times a year internationally. But yeah, the last time I was in Spain was 2 years ago.
2 years ago. Was that the first time you were out there, or had you been out there before?
No, I had been out there. No, it was the first time I've been out there to Spain, to actually the Spain mainland. And we went out there for our anniversary. So that was pretty dope, man. We loved it. That was our first anniversary.
Whoa, what a trip to take on your first anniversary.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never taken any girls that have been in anniversaries to such beautiful trips. It's like, let's go to Jack in the Box, get some tacos, and
maybe it's like we're celebrating our 3 months, our 4
Imagine
months,
them
our
leave
6
you.
months.
It's like, you're too grown to be doing Jack in the Box. No, man, but that's actually pretty cool. So yeah, that's why I'm here, you guys. I know, you guys always hear me in the background, but we don't have as many me in the camera unless we're in a pinch. And this is one of those scenarios. But one of the things that I was telling Danny, and I don't know if you're cool to talk about that. What do you think? You brought it up a minute ago, and I saw it, and I thought it was a joke too when I first saw it. What's up with this banana with tape?
Dude, that was ridiculous, bro.
What does that say about us? We're not one percenters. Obviously, I'm not saying that we're that. We're regular middle class Joes, right? But what does that say about society that there's so much money out there that somebody can spend 6 point what? Well, how much was it? 6.2?
Yeah, I'm about to look it up. Actually, matter of fact, it's not a joke. I thought it was absolutely satire, but no, it's modern art at its finest. Banana with duct tape, and it is ridiculous. It's a piece of art,
Right.
and it sold for $6.2 million.
6.2.
That's what it says.
Right. 6.2 million bucks. So I kind of knew the price, but when I heard that, I was like you, man. I was like, wait, this is a joke. But then I saw it, and then it made news. It made national news.
Yeah, no, I thought it was, like I said, I thought it was satire, and then I started seeing it in the New York Times, and I started seeing it on the Post. I was like, I get this is real, and it's literally a banana with duct tape stuck on the wall, and it's considered artistic genius.
You know what? I always wanted to be an artist, but I never really stepped out there to do it. If I would have known that it would have been as easy as duct tape and a banana, I have bananas and duct tape at my house.
Yeah.
I could make a beautiful piece of art tonight. If
Tonight
anybody
we
wants to
can do it
buy
right
it, just,
now.
yeah.
Man, I'm serious, man. Modern art has, I mean, it's a conversation to have because modern art nowadays says a lot about. Remember, life imitates art, and vice versa, right? So if our modern art is so abstract and so deconstructed, then what is our culture like? What does that say about our living?
Man, look, I think I don't know what it says about our living because I am not. I'm not a psychologist. My doctorate is honorary, so it's not real. So I'm unable to diagnose anybody with any cases.
I know what crazy is though.
We talked about that. We yeah
I
yeah
have
yeah.
a license
You
to
do
know
you
what
do you,
crazy
you
is.
do have the authority to speak on crazy, but I think that's one of the things that well look, and it's kind of funny that we were talking about this, like a little bit as well, the way that everything kind of changed. Obviously, we just went through this crazy election where people thought that, depending on what camp you were in, you had a completely different outcome of the
Right.
election, right? People were like, no, it's going to go, Democrats going to go, okay, we don't know. It's 50-50 according to all the polls, which apparently they were super wrong.
Yeah, absolutely lies.
Yeah, absolutely lies, which kind of shows you like, a lot of that is just BS. That's
Church gauge, man.
what it's a lot of BS that is hyped up by media, and that's been very clear, right? Because we do kind of live in a control state to a certain extent. That's my personal opinion as an honorary doctor. But that being said, I think that's one of the problems that we were having, and I think we're starting to kind of see a little bit of a shift on that.
Hmm.
But that was the problem, man. I mean, everybody gets camped up. Everybody gets siloed off into their own space, and then they hate anyone that's an other.
Yeah, it's very tribal.
Very tribal, and
We
so
become very tribal.
it almost makes you think back. Remember when I, I know you got me by like 10 years, I think, but I remember when they hit the Twin Towers. You remember that?
Oh yeah.
I was in 8th grade. I was in class. They hit the Twin Towers, and everyone there, we're all watching.
Hmm.
The, I was in arts and crafts or homemaking or something like that. I was in homemaking. It was a class that just took them, talk to girls. And I remember the Twin Towers happened. My teacher had it up on the TV, and we're watching it. And then after that, remember there was a crazy unity,
Hmm. Absolutely.
and it feels like instead of holding on to that unity, growing in unity, being a stronger country because we're united, that unity lasted for a period of time. But then it seems like after that, we went into such division that has never been seen. It seems like it hasn't been seen in my lifetime.
No, it has been. Yeah, it's crazy. So what happened when 9/11? It actually brought so much unity and patriotism. The level of just Americans coming together in a time of need. Everybody, the churches were full. Everybody went back to church, searching faith, trying to find reason. How could this happen to us? Like we were blindsided. And whether you stand on that, there's a lot of conspiracy theories out there about was it an inside job, this, that, whatever. That's not the conversation that we're having. We're talking about the aftermath, the actual product, the byproduct of a tragedy, a national tragedy, of us coming together
Yeah.
as one. And you saw it in activated patriotism and nationalism, not in the bad way. Um, it was a highest peak of people signing up for the military. All these things happen because they're like, yo, this is the USA, man. Y'all weren't supposed to do that.
Right.
And it was a different time, man. It was a different time. But now, um, we, in I guess, for one sense, maybe we were divided. Maybe we're kind of on different camps, but you could really, really see it like 2010, 2008 to 2010. You started seeing a lot of the actual division,
Mm,
racial inequality, and things of that nature. Not that it never existed,
right.
it was always there, but it was amplified to see, like, oh, we are different. And then what came into what we would consider quote unquote identity politics leads us to where we are right now, I
Right.
mean, Thanksgiving is here, right? Think
Right.
about how is that going to look at the table, especially with people with so polarized views on political stance. And then what happened? They voted for the felon, and now the felons are the president. What's going to happen next? It's the end of the world. But the crazy thing about it was that the dude won the popular vote.
Yeah.
He won all three branches. He got the Senate, he got the House. And when they started picturing this painting of America, America was mostly red and then pockets of blue cities. And it was just like, wait a minute, this is what's
Yeah.
going on, right? So I guess what we're trying to say is that we're really not that polarized, but they continue to amplify that we are polarized.
Well, look, man, I think we are polarized, and I think what happens is if you live in a rural community, because I think I told you so. I mentioned it to you when I came back. So I was in Colorado recently for just to get my head clear a little bit. So I took off for a week.
That's beautiful there, man.
It's gorgeous there, and then I had the fortune to be able to not only be in Colorado, but I got to travel through pretty much a good portion of the state around. I probably traversed maybe like 35% of the state, like, and I took the the back roads, right? I didn't go through the main road, so I did a lot of mountains and stuff like that.
That's
It's one of
awesome.
my, as you know, it's one of my favorite things to do.
Mhm.
And one of the things I noticed there is as soon as when I landed in Denver and I got my rent a car, Denver, to me, and I don't mean to offend anyone that lives in Denver, but it seemed to me like a like a broke down Houston, right? Because it seemed like everything was kind of like half baked compared to Houston. You know, we know Houston; it's one of the biggest cities in the world, right? But when I was there, very quickly getting my car, and then I headed to the mountains. But when I was in the mountains, dude, every rural community that I would go into, Trump signs everywhere.
Yeah.
And I know for a fact that Colorado, especially because while I
Yeah.
was there, randomly I would put the news on while I was staying in the Airbnbs I was at, and literally almost every political ad was Democrat.
Mhm.
There was hardly any Republican, or actually, I don't even think I remember seeing one Republican ad while I was there. And then I was thinking to myself, I was okay. Denver is Democrat, but everywhere else, every rural community, or a lot of them, seem to be very heavy on the Trump side. And so that's one of the things that kind of was shown during the
Mhm.
election, right? A lot of places in the
Yeah.
rural. But I think because we live in a big city, people are more siloed here. But that makes sense. Whenever there's an accumulation of people, there's usually an accumulation of ideologies.
Right.
The only
Yeah.
problem that I have is the aggressive rhetoric, the aggressive language. Do you know who Anna Kasparian is?
Yes.
Okay, so Anna Kasparian did an interview recently with, I don't remember the guy's podcast. It's a very great podcast. He does like cinematic podcasts, and she was on a podcast with him. She's one of the anchors of the Young Turks,
Young Church, correct.
and she was talking about how when she moved into this new building, her husband at the time was busy doing something where he was doing some sort of training course and couldn't help her move. So she was moving begrudgingly, doing everything herself, and she was annoyed. And she said that in the process of moving, like she had one last item to move, and it was her husband's bike. So she's trying to get her husband's bike up to the apartment or whatever. And all of a sudden, this older guy says, "Hey, see that you're struggling with that bike. Let me help you." So the guy helps her with the bike, takes it upstairs, and apparently, this guy, one of the nicest guys, super friendly, helps everyone in the apartment complex. Everyone likes this guy. This, according to her, right?
Mhm.
And then one day in a random meeting that they have, like the tenants, one of the ladies that was talking started bashing Trump. So this guy leans over to Anna and says, "Hey, if she keeps doing that, I'm just gonna leave, you know, because this is not cool." And then Anna, who used to be a leftist, now is more of an independent, had like a shock for a minute, thinking, "Wow, one of the nicest guys that I know is a Republican who, if I would have kicked it back a few years ago, I would have hated this guy just because his political affiliation."
Mhm.
That's the problem, dude.
Mhm.
We're no longer getting to know each other as humans. We're getting to know each other as with a label. And as soon as we identify, if I
Yeah.
identify you as a label, because think about it, I could put labels on you, pastor. And if I don't like church, oh, that pastor, don't deal with them,
Right.
right? You can easily label someone.
Right.
Why don't we just get to know each other, have these conversations? and maybe try to heal the nation. Because if we keep going down this path, man, it will be so easy to conquer us, right? And of
Yeah,
course, I
it
don't want
is.
that to occur. But and by the way, when I say conquering, I don't mean like another nation coming in. No, no, I don't. Because look, if I was a political leader in another country and I'm looking at the state of things, I'd be like, no, let them devolve into madness. Why would I interrupt that?
Yeah,
If I
exactly.
attack them, I'm gonna stop. They're gonna unite.
Yeah.
Let them destroy themselves. Let them hate each other. Let them divide each other. Let their economy suffer. Let their kids suffer. Let their society suffer.
Hmm.
And then once they're fully done suffering, what we'll do is we'll just strip all the parts. We'll take their commerce. We'll take their
Yeah,
intellectual property.
exactly.
You don't have to conquer us with war. We're conquering each other with
Yeah.
labels and rhetoric that we're spewing at each other. Do I sound
Yeah,
insane? You
no,
know what I
it's not
mean?
insane because Jesus himself said, "A house divided cannot stand," and he meant it. Even in Proverbs, also speaks like kingdom divided cannot stand. So it's like it's a truth with it's not just a truth. It's not a subjective truth. It's just truth alone. That if you have a home, instead of being unified, it doesn't mean that you have to be aligned with everything. But if you have your clear thinking, your independent thought process, but you come to a consensus, which everybody should, to have say, you know what, under this roof, we may not agree on everything, but we will agree on one thing. This is our home. That's the same thing. If we would have thought about this is our country. I mean, we may not agree with all the laws,
Mm,
but we understand that they're there for a reason. There's people that actually lost their lives for this.
right.
So here we are. Why can't people think of that? Because the Bible itself stands on it and says, look, you want to keep doing that? You want to keep playing that? There's going to be receipts that you're going to look back. You're going to be like, we did this to ourselves because the division is causing all kind of dysfunction in our culture, in our families, and even in government. I think it's the people in the world. They're laughing at us, bro. They're laughing.
Yeah, they're laughing at us. And
They're laughing.
it's not just that they're laughing at us. I think one of the biggest issues, man, and this is something that's becoming more prevalent. It's actually like the previous guest that brought this up. Your guest from last week, which was just minutes ago for us, right? Talked about the whole how some of these kids' lives. He was talking about foster kids, but
Foster care, yeah.
this is also for grown-ups. I know that there's
Yeah.
grown-ups like this out here, man. If they get one flat tire, it throws off their whole week, their whole month, maybe their whole year,
Yeah.
right? Maybe that flat tire, right, damages, I don't know, some part of their vehicle, and now
Yeah.
their vehicle, they have to get that replaced. I mean, the point I'm making is this, though. The reason I mention it is for this reason. I think there has been an issue with the way that politics has played a role to help some of these incredibly wealthy individuals
Hmm.
get so ridiculously wealthy. If we look at stats, and unfortunately, because my devices are utilized, I can't. But if you wouldn't mind
Yeah.
looking at stats, do me a favor. Look at the 1% or look at billionaires' net worth increases in the last 10 years.
Oh, this is gonna be good
So
if they even allow us to see it, because some of the stuff has been hidden away from us, right?
no,
So
you can definitely see this because we saw a massive wealth transfer in the last 10 years that accelerated after
yeah.
the pandemic, right? And so if we continue to allow our politicians to help subsidize the wealthy and the least of these keep getting shafted, pardon my
Hmm.
language, what do you think is going to happen to society if the only ones that are getting a lot of this wealth, that are hoarding wealth, are these guys that are billionaires, deca millionaires? There has to be a way for some of these, and I'm not saying a slacker, someone who's not willing to work, they should not make money. But what I'm saying is someone who's going to put in all their hours, 40, 50, 60 hours a
Right.
week, working their butts off. Their wife does the same thing and then they're barely able to scrape by. That's also what's causing tears in our fabric of the society.
Right. Correct.
You know, were you able to see any
Yes. Wow. This is incredible. 10 of the richest men doubled their fortunes from 700 billion to 1.5 trillion
and what span of time does it say?
during COVID. During COVID. This is in the span of 2 years of COVID pandemic. 160 million growth. It's almost, it says here that the growth of the percentage of the wealth, dear God, I don't even know, that's even crazy, but it literally says 99% growth.
Yeah.
99% growth during the pandemic.
Think about that. Now, at the
The
same
wealth
time,
transfer
that that's happening, the most amount of mom and pop businesses ever
went, yeah,
since the Great Depression went belly up
yeah, they did.
during that time.
Yeah.
They were also telling us, and this is old news. I know you guys are gonna be like, man, why are you guys talking about this? This is crazy old. But I feel that it's important to discuss so that it shows us why we're living in what we're living in right now. So check this out. While that's occurring, right? You were allowed to go to Walmart to shop for groceries,
Mhm.
but you weren't allowed to give patronage to a clothing shop that has one employee that maybe gets a total of 15 people in the
Exactly.
door a day.
Exactly.
You weren't allowed to go to a local farmer's market. No. You weren't allowed to do that. Those were all shut down. Produce going bad.
Mhm.
But it was perfectly fine for you to go to HEB.
You know what's crazy is that liquor stores were still open during the pandemic.
And actually, I don't know if you know this, but there's actually they publish stats on that as well. I think liquor consumption went up 40% or something like that during the pandemic because people were like, well, we don't have anything else to do, so let's stay home and drink.
And here, because people stayed home, divorce rate went up 42%.
Whew.
42%. There
I
were
mean,
more people that filed for divorce in 2 year span of
yeah.
COVID when the lockdowns happened. I'm serious.
No, I
People,
believe you. I
no,
haven't looked
actually,
at
the
the stats,
stats
but I
don't lie.
believe it.
Those
Yeah.
numbers were crazy. They staggered. Some of them were saying 28%. Some of them were saying 33% conservatively. But there's one stat that I read was 43% of divorces grew during COVID, bro. That means like I had my life.
Yeah.
You had your life. We lived our own lives, but we come and we sleep together. We live in the same house, but living together in close
24/7,
quarters.
24/7.
I can't stand this woman. I can't stand this
Yeah.
guy.
And you know what's crazy? You
It's
say
crazy.
that during that time is when I started my relationship with the woman who now is my ex. But and it was beautiful. It was great. It was great getting to spend that time with her, that COVID time. And then at the time, um, I was going through a pretty good time in my life, even though so I was. It was great. It was great for me. COVID was good. For a lot of others, it was bad. For me, financially, it was good. For me, emotionally, it was good in a lot of ways, right? And I'm not the type of man that has like emotional ups and downs. I'm pretty flat for the most part.
Yeah.
But that being said, COVID didn't affect me the same way that it affected a lot of people. But
Mhm.
that brought us to where we are now. I mean, right now, we have, I think I was hearing on NPR a couple of days ago that
You listen to NPR?
I listen to NPR. Yes, I believe in listening to all sides. But I heard a report on NPR talking about how credit card debt is at an all-time high.
Yep.
Again.
Mhm.
And for any of you out there that has any idea on how credit card debt works, it is the second heaviest drag on your finances outside of student loans.
Mhm.
Right?
I
Because at
can.
least with
I
credit card
mean,
debt, you can
I can
declare
agree that
bankruptcy.
credit card debt, especially with the interest rates, man.
They're crazy.
They're crazy, man.
28.9%.
28%, 27%, 22%. Well, okay. So the new administration that's in says that they're going to cap,
Mm.
write it into legislation. They're going to cap that no credit cards can reach over 10%.
Oh, look, man, that'd be phenomenal. That'd be
That's
fantastic.
going to piss off a lot of
That,
bankers.
that'd be
A lot
fantastic.
of
But
banks.
this is a problem, Danny, and this is a big issue, and we might disagree on this, and that's fine. The issue is that is not possible. And this is why the people that fund a lot of these elections are the one percenters, right?
Yeah, correct.
These one percenters have investments in all types of things, right? But do you think that Larry Fink and his pals are gonna allow government agencies to dictate how much money they're able to
Oh no, bro.
take away from the government. Now, could I
No.
see a small percentage reduction if they tell you know what, instead of it being capped at 28.9 or whatever, we're gonna bring it down to 20. I could see that. Maybe I could see that. Maybe because it will affect their bottom line dramatically.
Yeah.
But maybe I could see that. But 10%, you would literally be talking about such an impact, such a financial impact to those institutions, and they all rub elbows with each other. That's why that's the problem. We're the other.
Yeah. We've always been the other, bro.
We're the other.
We're always been the other.
You know?
Always been the other. And it's just a system, bro. It's part of the system. But you got to play the system. You got to play the game, you know. That's why very little things change in life.
Yeah.
Remember the Bible says there's nothing new under the sun.
Right. I've heard you say
This has always been the same. Like this is not nothing new. Like we're living through it and it feels like, "Oh my god, the end to democracy, the end to life, the end to our country."
Yeah.
But no, nothing's new under the sun. This is exactly the same thing that happened when other countries took over other countries and people lived in oppression, but they were living under taxation, and all this stuff. The government has been around for a long time, and crooked government has been around for even longer.
Right.
So,
Right. I mean, I agree with you there. I wish, I guess maybe my naive thinking is I wish that we would wake up and say, okay. We're spiraling out of control and we're headed somewhere really bad
yeah.
for all of us,
Mhm.
right? But I guess because we do live in a super connected world, if I was a one percenter, if I was a deca millionaire or a billionaire, I might have a different opinion. I might be like, well, hey, that's my money. I earned it.
Mhm.
What do you mean? Don't come after my money. Besides, if the US collapses, well, I have a house in Paris. I have a house in Brazil. I have offshore accounts. I have a lot of Bitcoin. Who cares?
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which I can't begin to fathom that because I have none of those things. And
Neither do I.
no, right. And
Yeah.
at the end of the day, like, again, even though, I mean, I'm a patriot. I love this country. This country's been great to me.
Mhm.
Do you know what I
It
mean?
is a great country. Our country is a fantastic country. I just more than anything, now that the election season is over, I think we got to go back to the table, man. Just sit down and have dialogue again. The ones that the side that claims to be tolerant, stop acting intolerant.
Yeah.
I mean, listen. If you lost, be like, good game, guy. Like, you know what I'm saying? Remember, like, I mean, I'm wearing a jersey right now. I'm a Houston Texans fan. They get beat. They get beat. They get outplayed. And you know what? It is what it is. You can't say, oh, it's fixed. It's rigged. It's a messed up system. It was the referee's fault. He called this penalty that shouldn't happen. Everybody's going to have the opinion.
Yeah.
But when you just get outplayed, you get outplayed. And it's like, okay, take an L. Don't take it as a loss. Take it as a lesson, right? Let your L's be lessons in life. And I think that most of the people, whether they're on the left or the right, now it's time to come back to the table and say, okay, guys, let's give this dude a shot. If it's going to happen, cool. Okay, now, if he doesn't, if he doesn't provide or if he doesn't deliver on his promises, hold him accountable.
Right.
Because there's always going to be a midterm election in 2022. Hold him accountable, man.
Right.
Hold him accountable. Now, if I tell you this much, I think I actually heard this on Adam Schultz's podcast. He was with Charlemagne, and they were talking about it. But this is really impressive. He said he believed, and this is verbatim what he said. He says, if Trump does deliver on everything that he said, there won't be another Democratic president in office for like a good 12 years because he's setting
We've
up a
seen that
system.
before, I think, actually. We've seen that in the past. Yeah, whenever you deliver. But you were saying, I'm sorry, I'm going to cut you off.
No, because that's exactly what happened with the Reagan years. He came in and did 2 terms, and then Bush Senior did 1 term, and then Bill Clinton came way later. So they had control for a solid 12 years.
I mean, but that's the thing, though. I will say this: even though Bill Clinton in our modern era gets a lot of hate for a variety of reasons, one of them being on Epstein's plane so many times, which is justifiable. You should give him hate for that. But when he was a president, man, he was a great president.
He was a good president, bro.
He was a good, I would say,
You know what's funny? My
yeah,
parents said that he was great. Like even my parents,
he was a
parents
great
said that
Democratic
he was a
president.
good president. He said my dad said when he had his business, um, he made great money. He did really good,
Yeah,
and they bought most properties during that presidency.
yeah. No, Clinton was a great president. But you know, you said that a minute ago. You said whenever your side loses, take the L as a lesson and move forward. Right? Okay. I think the issue that a lot of people on the left side maybe have with that comment is that whenever Trump lost, whether there was shenanigans or not, um, at least in court, they were never able. They took so many of these places to court. They were never able to prove
Mhm.
shenanigans. Now, not able to prove it in court. Maybe the whole system's corrupt. I don't know. Right? I haven't done enough research
Mhm.
other than them losing in court or having that shut down. Okay. Whenever he lost, he didn't just take it as an L and then or a lesson, and not just that, for the all 4 years they were like this, you know, Biden is illegitimate or so on and so forth. So it's hard to say, well, okay, well, you lost, so take it as a lesson, let's unite, let's be fine, whenever the Republicans lost 4 years ago. And that's not how they didn't accept the results. They didn't. So how can you go and ask for you to take the L as a lesson and move forward if, not saying you, I'm not speaking
Mhm.
directly of you, I'm talking about a portion of the party.
Mhm.
They decided not to just say, okay, guys, we lost. Let's re strategize. Why did we lose? What happened? Let's figure this out. As a matter of fact, the only thing that changed was the date because the rhetoric stayed the same.
Mhm.
You know, I think the reason why Trump got elected with such a force this time, and we can say that because
Yeah, it was
not only did he win the popular,
landslide.
but he won the electoral college by a landslide.
Mhm.
So it literally is a mandate. The country said we want you back, and we swept you in here with such a great victory that we pretty much are saying, go do what you say you're gonna do. We need this to be done. Okay, great, perfect, that's fine. But how do you build that bridge whenever the Republicans 4 years ago essentially were pretty much unwilling to build said bridge?
I have no idea, man. That's a great question. I'm not in their defense. I'm just saying this. We'll find out soon enough. I think um, election interference, whatever it's going, they're going to do investigations on all this stuff. Election interference. They're going to probably talk about election integrity, fraudulent elections, stuff like that, which has already been proven. It's been proven. They've
And,
been doing that. But
but that's the thing, Denny.
if
It hasn't. In court, they couldn't substantiate one single claim.
that, I understand that, but who knows? Maybe with this new administration, when they start really digging some stuff. I mean, here's the deal. If they say, people, if you go ask, like, did you see the list of people, how many people want that Epstein list to be released?
Yeah, I mean, a ton of people do.
Yeah, it's like a 71 percentile.
Yeah,
And
but
we as Americans, like, we love gossip, we love drama, but we're like, why? We want to know. And they asked the same thing for the P Diddy tapes or whatever,
yeah,
and it's almost like an 80%. Like everybody wants to know. Well, because we've been lied to.
yeah.
We've been lied to so many times. And I'm not saying that we don't have dirt. Everybody has dirt.
Everybody has.
But these are the people that we're paying.
I don't got dirt like that.
Yeah, I'm saying, but these are the people that we're paying.
That's some debaucherous type
Yeah,
of
yeah,
crazy stuff. Yeah,
that's pretty low, man. That's pretty
yeah,
low. But here's the thing: it's not to say anything like I don't know. I can't say what I don't know. I only know what
right.
I know. So you're right. Take it as a loss. Take it as a lesson. You're absolutely right. But if there's something unjust,
Hmm.
and if you feel that you've been done wrong, let the court decide, right? Let the court decide. Let
Perfect.
the justice system decide,
And
right?
that's what I'm telling you. So if you look at the filings that they did amongst all these states, they didn't win any of those of any of those disputes or claims of election fraud. So it goes back to what I'm saying. Like maybe Trump put something together and maybe they find something. I hope they do. Right. So then that can be justified. Because I mean, if we look at the numbers for the election, the first time that well, not the there was only one time that happened, but Biden and Trump, the numbers did go really high. There was a lot of voting that happened that is unusual because if you look at the historical, I don't know if you've ever seen that chart.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
It was like the most that people have voted. Period. So some people are like, well, maybe because it was COVID, so people had like more time to vote, so they went out and they did it, or maybe because of the current moment, people were like, no, we need to make our voice heard.
Whatever it may be.
Whatever it may be. But that's though. I think I go back to that same point. How do you want people to take it that way? And I'm not saying you do, but in general, it's like, okay, guys, take it a lesson and move on. If the Republicans didn't do it, and I will say this earlier, you made a mention. You said nationalist, and you're like, and you said, oh, it's not like I'm. You said it's not like they're being nationalist or I'm not being nationalist, something like that. I don't see the downside. I mean, I think isn't it a good thing to be a nationalist?
Well, yeah, but the term has been used loosely for nationalism to be associated with a certain party that was in power in the 30s.
Right.
The Third Reich, right? And everybody can say the name. But Hitler was the ultimate nationalist. He wanted to keep his bloodline pure, his country pure. And what he did was absolutely atrocious. Horrible.
Hands down.
Horrible human being. Horrible human being. But there is a sense of validity to have national pride. I'm proud to be a Texan. Like, as a matter of fact, when I travel, I travel quite a bit. But when we travel internationally, I say with more pride that I'm Texan than I am American. Because when I go into different countries in Europe or even in the Middle East, same for the USA, even though I look like them, everybody thinks I'm Middle Eastern. Everybody think I'm Turkish.
Yeah, me too.
Not for real, especially when I let my beard grow out. They talk to me in Arabic and I'm like, I'm Mexican, bro. Relax. But the truth of the matter is, I always refer to him as like, he goes, "You're American?" I'm like, "I'm Texan." And it boggles. I've said this like at least 20 or 30 times in different countries. And they sit back and goes, "Oh, you're from Texas."
Yeah.
And I take so much pride in that because it's the truth that Texas is its own republic. It is its own country. It can break away from the union at any time. It has its 3 branches of government. The governor of Texas is considered the president of Texas. There's only two states in the whole entire union that are republics, which is California and Texas. They're the only ones that have their own branches of government, everything. They have the self-sustaining to be their own country. And so I take so much pride in Texas because it is Texas. When I go to different countries, they say, "So you're American?" I always say, "No, I'm Texan." And it boggles their mind. And it's funny because they say, "Oh, you're nationalist Texas?" Or like, "You're nationalist?" Like, yes, I'm so proud to be a Texan.
Yeah.
And so what I want to get to is that there's nothing wrong with me being proud. Like, I am Texan with Mexican roots.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, this is Mexico, to be honest with you. This is
North
Mexico. This used to be North Mexico.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I saw this funny hat. It was actually a red hat, and it said "Make Texas Mexico Again." I swear to you, man, I almost bought it.
Oh,
it was hilarious, man. That was super dope.
Yeah, but that's one of the things that I do notice, man. I mean, I can probably count. Actually, I won't even be able to fill up a full hand the times that I've been discriminated. It's happened so rarely, and most of those people, like I said, I think maybe it's happened 2 or 3 times in my whole life. And those people were like just garbage humans. Like they're discriminated against me, but they were probably discriminated against their own kind. They were discriminated. They're just garbage people. You could see it in their lives, like, beat up car, beat up life, overweight, like just the standard cookie cutter trash, right?
Yeah.
But
that's a learned habit. You know that, right?
Yeah, it is. It is. And if that sounds a little bit douchebaggy of me, I'm just saying, like, we've all seen those people. Right. And there's people that look like that are super friendly and cool. Yeah. Right. And you do make a choice. But that's the thing is, like, I think that's another reason why I am so proud and I I love this country with all our flaws that we have,
But
but
let's stop real quick. I got a question. You were born in Mexico
yeah, I was born in Mexico.
and raised in here.
I was raised here. Yeah,
Man, you're proud to be an American.
I am because I am a what do you call it?
Naturalized citizen.
Naturalized citizen.
Mhm.
But again, I was brought here when I was 2 years old, man. So
Yeah, no, man. That's
Yeah.
all you know.
yeah, all I know is here in the States, and my
Yeah.
parents did immigrate here legally,
Mhm.
so they didn't like not talking less to people that have crossed the border illegally, but my parents did immigrate here legally, and then they were able to get amnesty, and we became citizens.
Mhm.
I was very young. I think I was like 11 or something like that when I became a citizen. 10
What
or
part of
11.
Mexico are you from?
Reynosa,
Reynosa.
right across the border.
Bro,
Yeah,
Tamaulipas.
but I don't know if you remember
Absolutely.
this, but back in the 70s and 80s,
80s, yeah.
what they would do is they would give visas.
Mhm.
At first, they would give day passes
Mhm.
to people that would come and work in the farmland, like
Mhm.
to pick
Correct.
the
Yeah.
stuff. But then eventually they switched that over and they started giving visas so they could travel more freely.
Mhm.
So my pops was one of the ones that received a visa, and so when it came opportunity for him to come over here and like establish a little more of a normal job, he got a work visa. So we went from the work visa, eventually filed paperwork with a lawyer to do a passport, so on and so forth. So when I see that debate happen on TV all the time, it does hit home to me
It hits home,
because
man.
it hits home because when I hear this, I'm like, okay, I have no, we personally, I'm an immigrant. I have nothing against immigrants, but there is also a
Process.
process.
Yeah, man. The sacrifice you did. You guys paid the price,
Yeah.
paid your dues, and then all of a sudden, would you get pushed to the front of the line kind of stuff? Like,
Well, it's not even just that, man. It's like, look, when you come here and you come and you're expecting for this country to just give you things, that doesn't last.
Hmm.
So if you immigrate from another country and you do get to skip the line and you do get certain government subsidies to help support you, you're only creating a welfare state for that individual. Eventually, those subsidies will run out because the parties will switch or interest will dissipate from that particular problem that they're going through. So what happens then? Now you have essentially people that have been supported by the government for a year, two, three, four, five, and then the money stops. That person or those individuals are used to receiving this money, and they haven't necessarily developed skills, haven't necessarily gone into the workforce. What do they do then?
yeah.
Do they commit crime? Maybe. Maybe not. Because if we look at the stats, immigrants actually are less likely to commit crime than native borns. I don't know if you know that,
Yeah, I do know that.
right?
The numbers are
The numbers
Yeah.
are skewed,
Yeah.
right? So that is it's less likely for an immigrant to commit a crime. But what happens is when some of these immigrants do commit a crime,
Yeah.
it gets blown up. But that's because there's no vetting at all.
Yeah.
So you do let a lot of dirt bags in
Mhm.
here.
Yeah, you do. And here's another thing. And Eli's one of the regulars on our show, and him being in law enforcement and he actually be an FTO officer and field training officer. And he's actually like one of the leads. Maybe I'm putting it too much out there, but he is like one of the leads of DUI division of the entire Harris County. He was the face of DUI for Harris County Sheriff Office.
Nice.
And he would tell me, bro, the numbers are staggering. The amount of people that I pull over with DUI, with the cases of DUI, driving while intoxication, driving under influence, were all immigrants. That was bad. The numbers were staggering.
Wow, that's crazy, man.
Staggering. Like the numbers. It's because our people, they love to drink, but they also love to drive and drink and drive. He goes, and here's when it was first time offense, $10,000, right? Second offense, you get some jail time, license suspended, SR22. You gotta have the little machine in your vehicle to start it, all that. And he goes, the third time offenses, and like, dude, like same guy. I was like pulling him over on all day mail route. It's like, dude, like I just pulled you over like 3 months ago. This is a third offense. Nothing. Slap on the wrist. He's still driving. So you got to understand that when he's sharing that kind of stuff with me, it was staggering. a number that, yeah, you don't want to bundle it up, but the numbers of DUI and obviously the numbers of, quite honestly, with the was possession charges of possession were all immigrants, mostly immigrants,
Mostly immigrants.
mostly
Well,
immigrants.
I don't know the stats. I'll defer to you since you have the friend in law enforcement and
Yeah,
things like
his
that.
numbers
And I
were
know
crazy, and
Eli as well.
this was post probably about like even because he was in his he's already promoted, right? So this is 17 years in, bro.
Yeah.
He was doing this for 17 years, so it was pretty much standard. It was standard protocol. 3 DWIs a night, all day mail route to airline escapade, 3 a night.
Yeah.
All of them were immigrants. All of them were Hispanic. All of them were in a questionable immigration status.
Yeah.
And all of them were drinking and driving.
Yeah. Well, as a matter of fact, my ex-girlfriend's brother, he decided to get behind the wheel and drive, and he got into an accident, right? The first time. Got ticketed, they let him go. Second time, he's drinking and driving. This time he gets pulled over because his tag was inspired on his car. Well, he doesn't have papers. So he gets deported.
Wait, Houston is a sanctuary city, bro.
Listen, let me take us there. So the reason why they deported him was because he had priors and he had been deported before.
Oh,
And so
okay.
they saw him, they're like, you're not even supposed to be here. So they deported him. Well, he gets the brilliant idea. As soon as the bus drops him off, he meets with a coyote. The coyote brings him across. And as soon as it brings him back, he happens to be waiting at a bus stop in the US, waiting for another coyote to pick him up, take him the rest of the way.
For those that don't know, Coyotes is a smuggler.
A smuggler, right? My bad. The cop pulls up. He's like, there was 3 guys there with him. He's like, let me see your papers. Like, oh. And they were like, we just deported you, dude. So they gave him 6 months, 6 months in jail. He just got out and he left. And I don't know what's going on with him at this point. I haven't asked. But I lived that personally because my girlfriend went through that.
Right.
And that's her little brother. So she's like, oh my God, what do we do? And she's like, should we send him money? I'm like, and I was completely against sending him money because of what he did. Because I don't know, I don't think you know this, but when I was 18 years old, I was coming home from work and I got into a head-on collision at about 55 miles an hour. I was going about 50, and the other driver who decided to pull into my lane was going about 50 to 60 miles an hour as well. Full head-on collision. I was in a Honda Civic 4-door, and he was in a Toyota Tacoma. He hit me so hard that not only did it collapse the entire front, but his truck flipped.
Dang.
Fortunately, it didn't flip over my truck. I ended up in the hospital. If it wasn't for the fact that at the time I was an athlete, young, and grace of God,
Wow.
I would have died. Because literally, like, the steering wheel on my car got bent by my chest.
Oh, wow.
So it was a really horrendous car accident. And the guy who hit me just so happened to not only be intoxicated, but he was also on pills.
Mm.
That guy was a white guy, but that's irrelevant to the story. The point is, I have a disgust towards drinking and driving because my life was almost taken at
Yeah, I
night,
agree.
at 18 years old.
Yeah. Mine too.
So whenever I look at that, I go, I don't support that in any way. I'm sure Eli probably looks at it in a very similar way because I mean, Eli is a very, very stand up, very,
Yeah.
right is right, wrong is wrong type of
Right.
guy, So I'm sure he looks at it the same way. So I don't have any sympathy with that. But that kind of gives us a bad name, though, man. Like
It does.
It gives us a bad name.
I mean, we're hard. The Hispanics, Latinos, Mexicans, Latino culture, man, they work really hard. Work ethic is up there. Very loyal, good people, stay to themselves. But man, they love to drink, man. They love to party, man. Las pachangas.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things. They work hard and they play hard.
Yeah.
They work hard, they play hard. Yeah, it's sad to say, but our culture it's a stigma. It follows us. It's not just a stereotype. The numbers do not lie.
Yeah.
It is absolute. You can't say, "Oh, I'm not trying to box everybody." I know The numbers don't lie. It's there.
I mean, look,
They are.
I would actually love to see the stats on drinking and driving in Houston regarding ethnicity breakdown. Because I mean, we're also, and this is another thing, we are looking at the encounters that Eli has, or are we looking at the
No, I'm
encounters that the
looking at the
precinct
encounters that
has?
Eli's has that he shared with me, and then him being, pretty much a team lead of the face of DWI
Yeah.
in his time. So now, I know we're talking about him right now. He's gonna watch this later. He's like, bro, you put my news out there, you put my my business out there. But now he's a sergeant. He promoted to sergeant, and God bless him for that. He's in the county jail now. But also he can, what they would call like lateral promotion and go back into traffic,
Yeah.
which will deal with like fatalities and things like that. And he basically, man, he basically has told me some things that, just because we're friends.
Yeah.
And he's like, man, he told me straight up, if it was up to him, he would make alcohol illegal.
That's insane.
Yeah, he would say,
I saw
like,
him
because of
drinking
the
last
stuff.
time. I'm
Yeah.
just joking. I'm just kidding. I
Yeah,
did.
no, man.
I'm totally playing
He
Eli.
said-
Don't
he
don't
said-
come after me, please.
No, Eli, I mean, maybe he was being hyperbolic, but he was just like, because of the stuff that he's seen,
Yeah.
the accident scenes, the death, the destruction that alcohol or people being inebriated while driving. He said that he would break the laws. If it was up to him, he would probably go like full prohibition all
Wow.
over again.
Yeah, that sounds a little crazy because
It is excessive.
That sounds a little excessive. But that's the thing, Danny. I mean, at the end of the day, that is one of those things that I look at with disgust. That whole drinking and driving. It's like, look, if you're gonna drink, everybody already knows this. Like, don't drive. Get an Uber, right? Don't
Yeah.
just avoid that process. But this is one of the questions that I do have, though, and maybe we can navigate it together. Trump's been elected into office
Mhm.
by unanimous decision, right? He's talking about at least what I've been hearing recently in the news, which I know the news tends to over exaggerate things, and it's been kind of that way for a while now.
Mhm.
And they're kind of full of crap. But they have talked about, and I actually heard his campaign talk about how they're considering figuring out a way to be able to have the military come in to the cities and help with the expediting process of getting people back to Mexico or back across the border.
Yeah.
You've heard this, right? Okay.
Mhm.
Look at us. We're
Was-
not white. We're, I'm a little lighter than you, but but like you said, when they look at us, they're
I
like,
usually get randomly checked at airports.
Oscar does too. Oscar, he's mad
They
every
think I'm
time. He
like-
gets profiled like crazy, but
Yeah.
but that's the whole thing, though. What happens if, let's say, they do get the military to do this, and let's say they start doing checkpoints or something? Doesn't that seem a little extreme?
Yeah.
And then doesn't it seem, what happens if, because of this, we get profiled and we are put through certain things? Now, I have my license and I'm a citizen. If you look it up, I'm straight, and so are you.
Mhm.
But remember, I told you, in my whole life, maybe 3 times discriminated and by trash people. But do you ever think about that?
Yeah, I think most of all, I doubt they would even allow it, man. Even if it happened, it's not gonna happen. You can say things and people could be like, yeah, on that side of things. I don't think it's gonna be. I think what's gonna happen is there's probably gonna be a coalition. They're going to go since when he assigns a new FBI director, the new CIA director, National Security Advisor, which is like all the people that he's chosen, they're like pretty aggressive people. Once they go into like the top cop of the land, all they really have to do is just go into the actual criminal history of people, and they just need to check their offenses. People that have multiple offenses and they don't have a regulatory or what we would consider a civil immigration status, they're going to be deported first. I think that's what they're going to do, but they're going to use the rhetoric, which is wrong, but they have the rhetoric to kind of put everybody in check. They kind of give them like, basically, it's a bluff, bro. That's all it is. It's a bluff. It's like poker face, I'm going to do this to you if you don't get your act straight. This is what's going to happen. And then all of a sudden, people may get in line, people may not. Maybe some people may shoot the middle finger and say, you know what, man, try it. And then he'll be like, all right, we're going to try it. But we're going to do the only way that they can civilly do that is number one. If you have inmates or people that have committed crimes that are here on an illegal status, what we would consider non citizen, there's no reason why they should be here. They need to be deported. That's what he's going to say. Because we're paying tax dollars to keep them there so they can pay their debt to society, which at the end of the day, they're not even our citizens, right? But even if they owe the debt here, they're going to be like, we're just housing them. You know what I'm saying? It's just, it's a revolving door. And to me, is an expense. That's how they're going to see it. That's how I think they're going to see it. That's just my opinion. But even then saying that, oh, they're going to use the military to kind of round people up, they're not going to do that, bro. There's no way they're going to do that.
Well, first of all, according to the Constitution, I believe it's illegal. So they would have to, or if not illegal, there's a lot of red tape there. But this is the thing, and I don't know if you know this. One of the issues with what you just said right now is you said, okay, if said illegal person is here illegally and they're a criminal back in their country, they should be deported. I agree 100%. Let me say that before I even start saying this. The problem is this. A lot of the countries of origin for these undocumented immigrants do not share records with the states.
That's true.
So that's when you start having an issue, because let's say, for example, let's say Venezuela, for example, which I don't know if they're one of them, but let's say Venezuela doesn't share records with the states, right? With the United States. Okay.
Mhm.
So does that mean that every Venezuelan that is here illegally now must be red tagged to be deported immediately, regardless of what they're doing? Because at that point you go, what happens if there's a few Venezuelans that have moved here, have assimilated, own small businesses,
Mhm.
employ few people, pay taxes,
Mhm.
right? Because we know that there's immigrants that are illegal that pay taxes.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Just like there's a lot that don't, right? But there's some that do because they want to establish a record for just in case there's ever an opportunity for an amnesty or a way for them to get citizenship,
exactly.
right? So what happens to those if they do a blanket ban? Because let's be honest too. Like for example, you have tattoos, right? So do I,
Several.
and so do I, right? We're both marked up.
Yeah.
Perfect. You cannot distinguish if someone's a criminal by the tattoos. If not, both of you and I, if we're being judged by tattoos alone, we're both criminals, right? Because some of these people that come from other countries are marked up, but doesn't necessarily mean that they're bad people. They just got tattoos, or maybe they were young, or maybe whatever, right? Now, if they've committed crimes in their country of origin, 100%, get them out of here. I don't want them. You don't want them. I don't think most people, if we had a chance to vote about that, they'd be like, we don't want that. Well, clearly, the overwhelming election, right? But if the country of origin doesn't share records, how can we know? So if you start applying blanket deportations, does that cause an issue for some of the people that are here honestly working and busting their butt and assimilating? Like, what do you do with that? That's one of those hard issues,
It's
right?
one of those super hard issues. It's like it's kind of hard to close the door when flooding water is coming in. It's too late. Too many
That's such a
people.
good way to put it, brother.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it.
Because
Close
I
the door
mean,
on flooding
how are
water.
you going to close? I mean, okay, we didn't have a wall. Okay, you just let them walk in, and now it's just like now we got to get rid of them.
Yeah.
You have to figure it out. I think it's going to take years. I think this is going to take a 15-year process. This is not a 4-year thing. It's a 15-year process. Now, he can see it aggressively, close the border, entrance by merit, all that kind of stuff that they're already promoting, kind of stuff. Wait in line, do it the correct way possible. But truthfully, it's going to be such a long process before it gets to it. It's going to exasperate. But I will say this. We paid over $200 billion and more than that growing to Ukraine so they can secure their border. So if they spent billions to fix our border, it's a good investment.
And you know what's crazy, man? I've actually never been in favor of that. From the first penny they gave them, I was like, what are we doing?
Yeah, it's World War III waiting to happen. You know, to be honest with you, I know U.S. and I'm a proud American. And the thing is, like, we have always been the policemen of the world. And yes, the certain three-letter agencies have also had their play in destroying governments and knocking people and adding people into places of power so they can be consensus and making things and get in line kind of stuff. You know, it's no secret. The three-letter agency, which I can't mention before we get red flag, that's what they do. They either topple leaders or assassinate leaders in the world. I get that. U.S. got a lot of problems, man. A lot of skeletons in the closet. But at the same time, it's like it's not our problem, bro. Like, stop trying to fix everybody else's problems when
Yeah.
we need to fix Main Street, when we can't fix our potholes, when we pay taxes, billions of dollars of taxes that are taken out of our checks and they're going somewhere else.
Yeah.
That it doesn't bother us. It's not going to bother us. Oh, well, it's going to affect us on. No, it's not going to affect. I disagree. I disagree that if Russia and Ukraine have an issue, let them hash it out, bro.
Yeah. They
Who
kept
cares? That's not
calling.
my. That's not our
They
problem.
kept calling, and they still do it now. Ukraine, our ally, but yet there's no documents saying they're our ally.
Well, I mean,
There's no paper. No, Danny. There's no paperwork saying they're our ally. We've never entered into a treaty with them to share security and defense with them. We never. They're not part of NATO. They're not.
no, they're not part of NATO. And if they were part of NATO, that would be an absolute. That would be a guarantee that war would initiate, like even on a worst base, on
Hundred
a
percent.
world
So
base.
whenever they're sending money to these cats, I'm like, and then this is the worst thing about it, Danny. And I know you know this, and most of you probably know this as well. But if you don't, check this out. That money that we're sending NATO, that money that we're sending Ukraine, sorry, is money that we're borrowing
Exactly.
because our national debt is at the highest it's ever been.
Always. Yeah.
So why aren't we paying our bills? Right, we're making our minimum payments, but our debt is ballooning.
Mhm.
Right, which is causing more inflation. Right now, inflation's kind of tame, but literally every single human that's born, and I saw the numbers like a year ago now, but it's high. Every human that's born in the United States has a literal debt on top of their head as soon as
Right.
they're born here.
As soon as they're born.
Why? Because our politicians have rampant spending and it's uncontrolled. So why the heck are we writing checks, especially this way? We're this is the train. We're taking borrowed money. We're giving it to Ukraine. Ukraine's receiving the money, but yet before the money gets to Ukraine, a big portion of that goes to our weapons manufacturers like Lockheed Martin, Boeing, so on and so forth, Northrop Grumman. It goes to them. So it
Mhm.
literally doesn't even make it to Ukraine.
Defense contractors. Yeah.
Most of it, it's about to get there. Ukraine gets a little bit. The rest of it goes back to the defense contractors, and then they sell you a bolt for $100. A bolt that costs 10 cents.
It's all business, man. War is business, bro. You already know that.
100%. But
Always been business.
if we looked at the freaking diagram, if we looked at a diagram of the way the money works, we're borrowing money that we don't have that increases the deficit because we're paying interest on every dollar. It's going somewhere, and only a little bit gets to the place where it's going. The rest of it gets siphoned right back to these military contractors, which essentially rip off in every imaginable way the U.S. population, and nobody bats an eye. It is infuriating. And I think that's why, going back to the beginning of our conversation, now that we're getting towards the end, that's why a lot of people, a lot of regular Joes, are so frustrated with the state of things.
Yeah, it is. It is. The world, Americans have voted. No more wars. No more wars.
No more wars, man.
No misuse of our funds. Like holding people accountable. His promises, like what he said, I don't know if it's possible. Term limits. That's enough, bro. You can't be a lifelong politician anymore. If the Constitution speaks that the president can only be in office for 4 years at a time and only serve 2 terms, there would never be a third term president. That's in the Constitution. Why is it that congressmen can be in office for 40 years, bro?
Yeah. Well, they've already interviewed.
35
They've
years.
interviewed some of these congressmen already, like on television. I've seen some of the interviews, and they've asked them, "Hey, what do you think about the proposal of congressmen and senators having term limits?" And literally, what they said, almost verbatim, every single one of them was like, "We already do. We have term limits. Every 2 years, they do an election, and people elect to put us back in office." And then, literally, if you look at the stats for senators and congressmen who, once they get elected into office, the chance of you knocking them out is almost impossible because the
Exactly.
machine gets behind them, especially if they
Yeah.
play ball.
Yeah, lobbying.
It,
The funding.
it's the funding. Yeah,
funding,
the
yeah.
funders come and they're like, "Yeah, we'll help you with the TV ads. We'll help you with this. Well, of course we will because you're helping us." So it's hard to knock them out.
Yeah.
It's hard for, let's say I want to run for office. It's hard for me to be,
Yeah, but think about it. If
you
they
know,
did the
Ted
term,
Cruz.
but if they did a term limit, if they said you can only serve for two, let's say let's give them the benefit of the doubt, 3 terms, 3 terms,
So 6 years.
6 years max, you're out.
But you know who has to approve that? Who has to approve term limits? So it can't be done by executive action. It can't. I'm sorry, by executive order. It can't be done by that. The people that would have to put term limits on themselves are themselves. So it would have to be an amendment. So the only way that happens is the Congress and the Senate agree and pass it.
Mm-hmm.
What is the likeliness that,
They're gonna,
that
yeah,
they're
right.
going to regulate themselves?
Yeah, they go unchecked,
They go in. Oh, we were talking about, wait, last week, right? You were talking about unchecked power.
unchecked power.
They're not going to check themselves.
No,
Why would they?
no. But I will say this: nobody ever vouchers for violence, but you think that if somebody, let's say for instance, like if somebody tells you, "Hey, man, let me borrow $100,"
Mm.
and then never pays you back,
Right.
and then comes back and say, "Look, man, I'm gonna get you back. I'm gonna pay you back that $100. Let me borrow another $100, man. I'll make it right."
Right.
And then here you go again. It's like, you know what? I'm not gonna do it again, but you better give me my money. Okay, cool. Then you go on Instagram and you're like, "Yo, this guy's on vacation,
Yeah.
and he hasn't called you back. He hasn't paid you. He's on vacation. He's taking pictures. He's popping bottles at the club, whatever, with your money that you loan him."
Right. Well, I don't know how
Well,
many bottles you can pop for $100.
exactly.
But I know
Yeah,
what you
probably. Like,
mean.
let's say, yeah, but I'm saying like maybe he
A bottle
borrowed
of-
money from $100 from you, but he's maybe he told like 10 other friends to pop bottles. You know what I'm saying?
I see what
He
you
never
mean.
pay anybody back.
Yeah.
That's what politicians are doing, bro. It's
Yeah.
like they're taking our money, which is they work for us. Remember, they work for us. We employ them as Americans. They take our money.
Mm.
They go do what they want with it. They make crazy research and development, spending millions of dollars for stupidity. They go unchecked, and then they say, "We need more money."
Right.
Oh, wait, the streets need to be fixed. We need more money.
Right.
We don't have funding. Well, there's not enough cops. We need more money. So they keep going back and forth until the point where you're going to be like, "Yo, I'm going to find you. When I find you, we're going to have to hash this out." The guy that owes you money, right? Yeah. So this is me not saying call to violence, but I'm saying people.
You're saying kind of call to violence.
Yeah.
Kinda.
Well, I'm saying, look.
He doesn't mean that.
No, I didn't mean that. But I'm trying to say you that that's exactly why this whole voting process, especially this election, they said we're done.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't a Trump thing. It was more of the things he was saying, and they're like common sense kind of thing. He's crazy. Yeah, he's an idiot. He says so many things. He is a nut. Well, you gotta get a nut to do a dirty job, man. The dirty job to go do the dirty work, right? We didn't vote in a pastor or
I think people want a strong man. I think people, especially in this election, I think it's clear people want a strong man. It seems like people want someone to come in and just do what has to be done to get things right. And I know we're getting towards the end, so I'll ask you this last question, and if it's cool with you, you can finish and go out with this. But in your mind, what would be ideal? Like if Trump's going into office, what would you want him to do in order for when he leaves, you're like, he was a good president?
He got voted in for what he said, for his policies, not for his character. His character has a lot of flaws, but his policies, the people who have spoken, 80% of the, well, I'm missing like not 80%, but like good 70%, according to the numbers of the stats, have spoken of America. They said, okay, we're with you. Close the border. Fix the immigration issue. Okay, cool. Stop the wars. Stop the wars. The endless wars. Stop it. No more wars. Regulating government. Hired Elon and
Vivek Ramaswamy.
Ramaswamy, right? Two guys to do one job. And he says, yeah, but think about it this way. They're going to fire like 60% of all the government agents, which is great because most of them don't need their job. Like they're just getting a paycheck. Uh, the way it seemed to be more efficient, and I know personally because I work for Tesla. You know that I work for Tesla.
Right.
Working for Tesla as a technician, it's a cutthroat company. They tell you straight up and they remind you every single time, every month, every meeting, what we used to call huddle. They call it our huddle meetings. You're lucky to have a job. They will remind us, do not get out of line. You will get fired. We will give you a severance. You will be fired.
Mm.
And it was kind of like you were like, oh my God, it's threatening or whatever, but it kept everybody in check, man. Everybody in check. Intellectual property. No phones allowed in the warehouse. You couldn't film anything. Why? Because you had to sign a non-competitive contract. It was intellectual property that belonged to Tesla. You couldn't take things. You couldn't take pictures of things because all of that could have been, there was just policies that you had to do. There was rules. If you were employed by Tesla, it had tons of rules. What I meant to say is that he ran his company and became the richest man in the world by being frugal and being very, very aggressive for his staff, saying that if you do not align with what I do, this is my culture, this is my company, you're fired. I know that personally. So when I came to the end of my tenure with them, there was no argument. I knew what I signed up for. I knew that it was going to come to an end. They say, hey, this is where we part ways. You don't have a position anymore. Everybody moved in from Austin. Your position is no longer available. You either move to Austin or you stay here in Houston. I said, okay, no, we're good.
Yeah.
You're done. Thank you. Thank you for your service. Thank you for being with us. And that's the end of it. If you start thinking about like that, people are going to be held accountable. If that really happens, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to accountability. If we were held accountable, if we run a red light, we have to pay a ticket, we got to go to court. It has to be the same thing for them, man. They were voted in to do a job. They didn't do a job. They did something else. They need to be held accountable for it. If there was fraud, if there was fake, or if there was any kind of, anything nefarious going on, they need to go to jail, bro. No get out of jail free card. I mean, like everybody that's crooked needs to go to jail. They have to pay prison. And anybody that commits treason according to the Constitution.
Yeah. Treason's a big one, yeah.
Treason against the government, treason against the country is payable by death according to the Constitution. Now, there is no more public hangings, but according to the Constitution, that's how they did. Thomas Jefferson, I don't know if you know history, but Thomas Jefferson actually shot somebody on the White House lawn for treason. You can look it up. The president of the United States says, you're a treasonous, walked outside, pulled his musket and shot him. Everybody was cool with that. Now you're going to say, man, that sounds aggressive. Man, we don't live in those days anymore. But think about it. That's how much pride and the allocation of pride for their country was, that if you did something nefarious for some other country, you had to pay with your life. That's called treason. We don't have that anymore, man. I'm telling you, it's just like one of those things. Like, I'm not the bad guy here. There was rules that were in place. Everybody skipped over the rules. We had to keep the rules, but everybody in power and government, their rules don't apply. It's not cool, man. So in this next few years that are about to happen, I hope and I pray that God brings a swift hand of justice over all of us. I pray for mercy every day. They should be too. But I'm hoping that whatever he promised, that he fulfills. And if he doesn't, I guarantee you the people will be raging if he doesn't do what he was supposed to do, because that's why they voted him in.
Yeah. I mean, I hope that I hope he does a good job. I hope that that 4 years from now we can say, "Wow, man, Trump nailed it. He did it. We're out of wars. We're out of this. This has changed. This has changed. This isn't that. Whatever it may be, right? I really hope that he goes in there and he does something great. Because at the end of the day, no matter who wins, we should always want the best
Oh yeah,
for our country.
we want the best for our country. And then the final thing to say is like, olive branch, man, just calm down. We talked about it before the election. We
Yeah.
talked post election. Now we are here. We are into the holidays. He hasn't been sworn in. Calm down, bro.
Yeah.
Everybody just calm down. We're all Americans. We're all human beings. We're all children of God. Let's just take it easy, man. That's enough of that. Enough of it. I mean, he won fair and square, unanimously.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
No, yeah. Yeah. I
What
mean,
are you
hey,
gonna do?
I have no problem with it. I hope things go as as good as they can, and I hope he brings in some positive, radical change that brings good things to the country. So that's my opinion, man. But yeah, sorry, we went all over the place, and I appreciate you.
Yeah, man, just an open dialogue, man. It was a good conversation, though. But thank you guys for joining us. Again, thank you for being part of our family. Thank you for being part of the podcast. And all I can say is that let's calm down. Let's be friends. Let's be Americans. Let's be civil. Um, there's too much for us to look forward to. I think the future looks bright, as like Pat Ben David always says.
Yeah, it
The
does.
future looks bright. There's hope in the horizon. Until the Lord Jesus comes, He is coming for His church. Everything falls into place, and let's just enjoy being where we are. And if we're not happy where we are, let's fix it. Let's work on it. Let's work on each other so we can get to a place that we want to be. You want to say anything else?
No, that's it, man. Guys, thank you so much. Don't forget to like, subscribe. We really, really appreciate you guys. And if you want to help us get this mission to new places, we have a Patreon. We don't have anything on the Patreon, but any type of support would help us so much get this word to more people. So thank you guys.
See you on the other side, guys.